Hey guys, welcome to Cratermania. I'm your host, Crater, and welcome to a very special Monday edition of Cratermania's 500 Movies in 2025. I don't normally do these on Mondays, but today is President's Day, um, and so I figured I would do a President's Day special since I'm off. I'm off work today too. Um, oh, something's happened to my stream here. Think it froze up on me. Give me just 1 second, guys. All right. Let's see. All right, I think we're good now. Sorry about that. Um, so, like I said, today is President's Day, and I had the day off, so I figured I would watch just a couple movies. So this is going to be a shorter stream than usual. Um, I only watched two movies for this President's Day special that I'm going to be talking about. Um, but fortunately, they're both really good movies. One of them I had never seen before, and the other I absolutely love. I've loved it since I was a kid. It was one of my brother's favorite movies, I think, in the '90s. So I was always watching it with him whenever he would. And just as I've gotten older, it's become one of my favorites too. Um, so this past weekend was Valentine's Day. This past Friday. I hope you guys had a good Valentine's Day. I mentioned that last night's stream as well, on the Valentine's Day violence stream. So if you guys haven't checked that out yet, be sure to go on my channel and watch that video as well. If you want to hear me talk about those movies I talk about in that video, but yeah, today, like I said, this is going to be just a shorter one than usual. Covering two different movies for my 500 movies in 2025. And guys, I'm getting closer and closer to that 100 movie mark. So these two we'll be talking about today will be number 81 and 82 of the 500. So let's go ahead and I guess jump right into this. So the first movie I watched for this President's Day special is a movie that I'd never seen before. I'd always heard people talk about it, seen stuff about it online, um, but just had never watched it. And honestly, I think the reason why I never watched it is because that sounds like a stupid premise. I mean, that don't sound like something that would be good. Boy, was I wrong about that because I absolutely loved this movie. I mean, I thought this was great. I thought it was a ton of fun. It was right up my alley, and that's the 2012 horror slash historical movie, if you want to call it that. Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, and the title itself is like a what the f type of type of title, like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and this movie is exactly what the title promises. So it's just this historical fantasy action film. It also has there's horror, there's romance, there's this movie has everything, honestly. Um, and it's a reimagining of the story of the 16th president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, as this fearsome or slayer of the undead. Um, and it's got a ridiculous premise, but it's entertainingly ridiculous. Um, if I was to compare this, it's like Abraham Lincoln meets The Matrix meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Uh, all rolled into one. I mean, and I know that sounds like completely ludicrous, but just trust me, guys. I mean, this is a fun one. The effects on this and stuff are a lot of it, a lot of CGI. But if you guys can look past all this, I know a lot of people frown on CGI. I'm not a big fan of CGI, but there's just some really dumb fun stuff in this that I absolutely loved and had such a great time with watching it. Um, so the story itself, Um, well, let's see. How do I describe this movie? Um, it takes a lot of liberties. I'll say that with Lincoln's biography. Um, so it starts off. We see a young Abraham Lincoln who witnesses his mother's death at the hands of a vampire, and he's consumed by vengeance. He wants to get his revenge on these vampires, and so he meets this guy named Henry Sturgis, and Henry starts to train Abraham Lincoln in how to be a hunter, how to hunt these vampires. So, and he's just he trains them into how to like focus and just the whole art of combat pretty much. So, Lincoln at this point he dedicates his life. So Henry tells him he can't have any kind of connection to the outside world. No friends, no family, no relationships, nothing. So he has to just pretty much dedicate his life to getting rid of these vampires. Um, you know, which he ends up discovering is like deeply intertwined with slavery. Um, so as it goes into the movie where he starts getting to his political career, um, including becoming the president and all that during, and it gets into the Civil War stuff. Lincoln is at the same time as this Civil War is going on, is fighting this secret war against this big coven of vampires. It's led by this ancient vampire named Adam, who was I guess was supposed to be like the one of the first vampires. Um, and like I said, the movie does portray the Civil War as not just a struggle for human freedom, but also a battle against like the vampires' desire to preserve slavery as a source of blood and power. Um, and it's like I said, it's a crazy premise for a movie, and I think, and the movie's aware of that. So it was based off of a book that it came out 2 years prior to the movie, um, and I forget the guy's name, something Smith, I think, is the one that wrote the book, and he was like he wrote the screenplay for the movie too. Um, but it weaves these historical events into the whole vampire narrative, and sometimes convincingly, sometimes hilarious, but always with that commitment to that over the top atmosphere. And I didn't know this until after I had the movie ended and I was watching the credits, but Tim Burton was a producer on this, and I definitely like see that, like the whole like the setting, the atmosphere, all of like how the movie's arranged with the dark tones and shadows and everything that you would kind of experience in a Tim Burton film. It's present in this. Now I can't think of the guy's name that directed this. I can't. Even if I did, I have seen it. I can't pronounce it, but he's like Turkish and Russian. Um, but very, very creative guy. Very creative guy. Same with the writer for this. Very, very creative people working on this. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the characters in this movie. First, you got Abraham Lincoln, of course, the title character, who's played by Benjamin Walker. Um, and I'm not really familiar with other stuff that Benjamin Walker's in. Um, it seems like he was in something recently that I did see though, but it may have been someone else. I'm not sure. I'd have to come back to you guys on that. But of course, he's the protagonist of this whole movie, and he's driven by revenge, and just he wants justice because of what these vampires did to his mother when he was just a child. So, he transitions from this lanky, awkward young man into this formidable vampire hunter. Um, and ultimately, he becomes president. And like I said, this movie takes a lot of liberties with history. It does attempt, though, however, to retain some of Lincoln's key characteristics, and just different moments throughout his life, throughout history that people know of. So I thought that was really cool. Like a lot of the stuff in this, is basically stuff that really happened in Abraham Lincoln's life, but they just throw in this whole vampire hunter story into the mix. Um, so the next character, which is named Henry Sturgis, he's played by Dominic Cooper. He's Lincoln's mentor as a vampire hunter, and he's very mysterious and kind of a brooding guy who has all this extensive knowledge of just vampires and their weaknesses. And like I said, he trains Lincoln in this art of vampire hunting and teaches him to dedicate his life to that. And and Henry also, he has a lot of secrets of his own as well, which are revealed as the story progresses, which kind of adds a layer of complexity to his character. Um, but I don't want to give that away. If you've never seen this, I highly recommend it. So I don't want to give too much away about it, but definitely it's one that people need to experience for themselves. Um, so the next person I want to talk about is Mary Todd Lincoln, who ends up becoming Abraham Lincoln's wife. And she's played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Now, I am very familiar with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I think she's a fantastic actress. She was actually in a movie, which was the first movie me and my wife Candace ever saw together, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Um, so she plays, I think it's Ramona is her name in that, and then she's also in, I think is it called 1010 Cloverfield Lane, the one where she's underground with like John Goodman. And then she's in a number of other things too. Those things. I think she's a very, like I said, she's a very talented actress. I'm a big fan of hers. But like I said, she plays Lincoln's wife in this, and it starts out like when they meet, like they're like kind of dating at first, and then they go into the story of them getting married and all that. Um, and she is for the longest time unaware of her husband's secret life. Um, so he just kind of keeps that from her for years and years into their relationship. Like early on in the movie, they're on this date when they're just dating, and he tells her that's what, but then like she starts laughing and he laughs, and and she just sees him as just joking. So he just decides, okay, well, maybe I'll just let her know that I'm joking, and that I won't really let her know that I do this. Um, and then you have the villain of this movie, who's named Adam, and he's played by Rufus Sewell. I'm not sure if or Sewell. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. Um, he's just, Adam is this ancient and powerful vampire who leads the vampire coven in America, and he embodies the movie's like symbolic connection between vampirism and slavery. Um, just and he sees humans as nothing more than just a food source. So this guy, the Rufus Sewell, he does such an awesome job as this main vampire Adam. It's a very, very chilling and menacing performance. I think guys, I'm new to him as well. He's another new actor to me. So, but I really, really enjoyed everybody's performances, especially the guy that plays Abraham Lincoln. I thought, when it gets into the later years of Lincoln, when he's president and stuff, he really looks like Abraham Lincoln in this. I just, it's great. Um, then you have Will Johnson, which is Lincoln's childhood friend. Um, the older version of Will is played by Anthony Mackie, which is uh, you know a big name in Hollywood right now because he's part of the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. He plays as the Falcon, or he was the Falcon, but he's the new Captain America now because they just came out with that new Captain America movie, Brave New World, which I haven't seen that yet, but I've not been hearing many good things about it. Um, but yeah, Anthony, Anthony, he's also Papa Doc in 8 Mile. So yeah, I like Anthony Mackie, and this might be one of my favorite roles of Anthony Mackie's actually too. Like I said, he plays Lincoln's childhood friend, and he was a slave that has been freed, and he becomes Lincoln's like trusted confidant, and Lincoln trains him to also become a vampire hunter later on. Um, so he kind of provides this crucial perspective on the connection between slavery and the whole vampire infestation. Um, Now, like I mentioned earlier, some of the stuff in this, as far as like the effects go, is a lot. There's a lot of CGI, but and I absolutely love it because like I said, when I compared that to the Matrix and Abraham Lincoln, Buffy Vampire Slayer, I mean, I think that's the perfect description for this movie. Um, because the reason I use the Matrix as an example is because of just the fight scenes and the fake sequences. It reminds you a lot of the battles and the fight scenes in the Matrix. Or another good example is like the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing movie. The type of effects they use for the fight scenes in that. I mean, definitely that I feel like this was inspired by those films. So yeah, like there's a bar fight in this early in the movie between Lincoln confronts this vampire who killed his mother in this like big bar brawl, and it ends up um Lincoln has to end up being saved by Henry. So so that was kind of Lincoln's like early introduction to battling these vampires, but it's a really fun one. One of the most like intense scenes for me. I thought this was really cool. So I always like stuff in movies anyway, dealing with like when they're riding on horses. They're either being it's in like a chase scene or whatever. Um, Now all these horses in this, unfortunately, are not real horses. They're CGI, but I think for CGI it looks pretty good. I enjoyed it, and it's very like an intense chase. It's this sequence where where Lincoln and this vampire, I believe I can't remember which vampire it was, but he's chasing after him on these horses, and they're like jumping from these horses, and then like they fall to the ground, and all these horses are like they're stampeding through there, and they're just having this fight scene all while this is going on. It's I don't know, it's hard to describe, but you guys just have it's one of these movies with in a scene that you have to see to understand. Um, but one thing that was really cool of it, because like how it kind of adds actual historical elements into this, is when Lincoln is giving the Gettysburg Address. So you hear like this audio of him giving the Gettysburg Address, and it's like intertwined with these scenes of these vampire battles on the Gettysburg battlefield, which kind of creates this darkly humorous and like kind of very effective element of the movie, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was super cool. And then you have the final showdown in the end, which is really awesome as well between um, Adam and Lincoln, and there's just so much in this. Like I said, this movie has everything. Like it has horror, it has action, it has drama, it has a bit of comedy here and there. Um, and I really would recommend this one to anybody, especially people that are fans of both horror and historical figures. Um, so this movie overall, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, it wasn't like a critical like success or like a box office smash or anything like that. Um, However, I know I've heard a lot of people talk about this, and I think it's been over a decade now since the movie was put out, and I think it's garnered somewhat of a cult following now. Since I've heard several people talk about it. Obviously, now talked about in like horror movie magazines, like Horror Hound magazine and stuff like that. So and like I said, where it was based off of a book. It came out. The movie came out 2 years the um, after the book was released, and there was a sequel to the book called The Last American Vampire, which is supposed to follow further stories of the character Henry. And I believe back in 2018 they had planned to release either a movie or a TV series based off of the second book, but it never came to light. But and I really hope, I like I said, I really enjoyed this movie a lot, and I really hope that they do uh, end up putting a TV series or a movie out for the second book, because I want to see more of the story for Henry. And I may end up just reading these books, because it's really got me so interested that I want to go and read the book of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter and the second one, The Last American Vampire. And it also just got me thinking, like, why don't they do more movies like this with historical figures like Benjamin Franklin Vampire Hunter, or Harriet Tubman Vampire, which that reminds me, Harriet Tubman is actually in this movie. Like, there's a lady, like, it maybe lasts like a couple minutes or something, where Mary, Mary Lincoln, which is, Abraham Lincoln's wife, she's trying to help Harriet Tubman and all these slaves escape on the Underground Railroad. So that's said, even though majority of this movie story is fictional, there's a lot of actual true historical stuff also included in the movie, and I think that's why it was so entertaining to me. Um, but it went all in. This movie goes all in on its whole ridiculous premise. Um, the stylized action sequences and the gothic like atmosphere is very visually appealing. Um, and then the whole idea of Abraham Lincoln just as a vampire hunter is it's just so outlandish, but it's so awesome to me. It's like it's definitely right up my alley when it comes to the whole absurd stuff that's in horror and just in this world in general. But yeah, I mean, the movie definitely has flaws here and there, but it's super fun. If you like stuff like Supernatural or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or if you like the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing movie, which I do, I actually did like that movie. I went to the theater and watched that one. Um, then I think this is definitely up your guys' alley as well, if you like that kind of stuff. Because anybody else who uh, uh, appreciates like historical like revisions and stuff as well. I know the same guy that wrote the book for Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter also did the book Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which I think they did make that into a movie as well. But I haven't either read the book or seen the movie of that. But after seeing this, it's kind of got me interested. It kind of got me want to watch, see what that's like too. Um, and but this movie is just is like I said, it's a bloody good time, pun intended. It shows that there was an audience for this whole weird alternative history with movies. And it's just it's not a movie that takes itself too seriously, and I think that's always a good thing, is to as long as you're having fun with this, that's all that matters. um but I guess moving on, the second movie of the two movies that I watched for the President's Day special is one of my favorites growing up in the 90s. Is one of my brother's favorites, because my brother was the one that introduced me to this. And it's from 1991, and it's directed by Catherine Bigelow, who also directed one of my favorite vampire movies, Near Dark. But this is the action masterpiece, Point Break. And Point Break isn't just a surf movie or a cop movie. it's really just this visually stunning like story of obsession and freedom and the whole allure of just living life on the edge. Um, and I think now, more than 3 decades later, after the movie was released, it's a cult classic. You know, tons and tons of people love this movie. It's probably my favorite Patrick Swayze movie that there is. So the story of Point Break is, the main character in this is Johnny Utah, who's played by Keanu Reeves. He's this ex college like football star who got injured, so he turns to a career with the FBI, and he's tasked with going undercover to investigate this like string of bank robberies that are perpetrated by this group called the Ex Presidents, where it's a group of four guys who wear president masks of Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, Lyndon B. Johnson, and Jimmy Carter. Um, and these ex presidents are actually a gang of surfers, just in disguise. And excuse me. So they're just this gang of surfers who are in disguise, and like I said, they wear these masks of these former U.S. presidents during their heists. Um, and as Johnny, he infiltrates the whole surfing community um, of Southern California. He quickly befriends this guy named Bodie, who's played by Patrick Swayze. And Bodie is just this charismatic and philosophical surfer guy whose thirst for this like the ultimate adrenaline rush. It just it kind of takes over who he is. So Johnny finds himself torn between his duty to the FBI and just this intoxicating pull of that Bodie is pull the stuff that Bodie's pulling him into. This whole philosophy and this extreme lifestyle. Um, the narrative of this, it just has this tension where that keeps building as Johnny gets closer and closer to uncovering the truth, which forces him to end up confronting his own desires and motivations, and ultimately he faces this whole moral dilemma. Should he, arrest Bodie and uphold the law, or just kind of succumb to this seductive freedom that Bodie represents? So like I said, to look at some of the characters here, like I said, Johnny Utah, played by Keanu Reeves, um, and you got Bodie as well, played by Patrick Swayze. Then you look at Johnny's partner, Angelo Pappas, I think is how you say his last name, and he's played by Gary Busey, and this is probably one of Gary Busey's most memorable roles as well. Because his character Angelo is like this seasoned veteran within the FBI, and he kind of provides like the comic relief in the movie and more grounded perspective of as the film goes on with all its like outlandish stuff that's going on. He becomes the voice of reason many times for Johnny, as Johnny's kind of like stuck in this decision of to help the FBI or to give into this lifestyle that Bodie is presenting to him. Um, then you got Tyler, which is the love interest of Johnny Utah in this, and she's played by Lori Petty. So she's the one that he first meets when he's in this investigation. She teaches him to surf and all that, and she introduces him. She's the one that introduces him to Bodie because her and Bodie were formerly in a relationship, and uh, she ends up starting to fall in love with Johnny, and so he's struggling at the same time because he's a part. He's undercover as the FBI agent. She doesn't know that, and he's having to hide all this stuff from her. But at the same time, he's struggling with that because he's starting to have feelings for her as well. Um, but this movie has some of the best action sequences of any any movies that came out in the 80s. I'm sorry, not the 80s, but the 90s, as far as like, as action movies go. The skydiving scene in this is one of the most popular scenes in the entire movie. I mean, anybody that I've talked about with this movie, that's always one of the first scenes that people bring up. It was excellent. I mean, it was amazingly filmed the way they did it. The stunts and everything regarding this. The sequences within when they're skydiving, they capture just the exhilaration and just the danger, of free falling, which kind of serves as this visual like metaphor for the character's pursuit of extreme experiences. Um, and the dialogue that's exchanged midair, particularly during like when they're, like I think the one guy, I can't remember who it is, which character he says he's like sex with the gods or something like that. He's like, you can't beat this. Um, oh, and speaking of another character, and I've mentioned this guy before, and it's just at this point become a running joke for this channel. When I did Phantasm 2, when I was talking about Phantasm 2, I talked about James LaGrosse, and I was like, I don't think I know James LaGrosse from anything else other than Phantasm 2. And I was dead wrong about that because, because when I covered Solar Babies, I was like, oh, he was in that. And then when I covered Batteries Not Included, like he was in that too. And here's James LaGrosse again, also in Point Break. He is actually the one that wears the Richard Nixon mask as part of the group that robs the banks. So thought that was funny as well that I would bring up here on this video. But another really cool scene in this movie is the foot chase through the streets of Los Angeles between Johnny and Bodie. Um, so there's this scene where Johnny and his partner Angelo, they're sitting outside this bank waiting because they think they got it figured out that this is the one that the ex presidents are going to hit next. Well, Johnny is off over at this little diner getting food, and Angelo's still in the car just reading Calvin and Hobbes comic strips and laughing at those and stuff, and they're not even paying attention. Look, here this Lincoln pulls up, and the ex presidents jump out and they run in the bank. So after they're coming out, Johnny sees them and he tries to stop them by shooting at them, and then they chase after them in a car at first, but then Johnny gets out and Bodie's character, who's disguised as Ronald Reagan, they start this whole foot chase, like I said, through the streets of Los Angeles, and it's very like there's all kinds of twists and turns during this chase, and it's very intense and suspenseful. Um, but it does hit that whole injury that Johnny had when he was a football star. Uh, Kind of bites him in the ass during this chase because when they jump off this little ledge, he comes down on his leg and he re-injures himself, and Bodie gets away. But it's definitely a really awesome scene. One of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Um, and then you got the bank robbery scenes when they include Johnny. They kind of have to are they force him into becoming a part of this robbery because at this point the girl Tyler, that is Johnny's love interest, has been kidnapped by one of his group, and so they're holding her hostage, and he's forced into doing this bank robbery with him without a mask on. So during this, there is a cop that's off duty in the bank, and he tries to stop them by shooting at them, but he ends up getting killed himself. Um, one of Bodie's guys ends up getting killed in the process, just because usually these bank robberies that they've been doing are 90 seconds in and out, and they never go to the vault. They just always just take what's in the registers and they go. This time, Bodie got a little bit overzealous, and he decided for them to try to go into the vault, and just things didn't work out for him as he planned. So the whole thing with the off duty cop caused that issue, and yeah, I mean it's a very intense scene. I mean, there's a lot of intense scenes like that in this movie, and the whole surfing aspect of it too, extreme sports, extreme lifestyle that Bodie lives, the skydiving, all of that is just it's very 90s. I mean, and that's something I love. I grew up in the 90s. So I got to experience this stuff firsthand as these movies like that were coming out. Um, so yeah, it's always going to be extremely nostalgic for me. Um, but Point Break, I think, has cemented its place as a cult classic as well. Like I said, and for a good reason. It has visually stunning action sequences. Very awesome, like charismatic performances throughout the movie from all of the cast, and just that whole exploration of just complex, different themes, kind of continues to resonate with audiences. And the movie's influence can be seen in numerous action movies that followed in the 90s up until this day, particularly those that explore like the whole extreme sports aspect and just the whole blurred lines between law enforcement and criminals. Um, so beyond that whole action spectacle of the movie, Point Break just offers like that deeper commentary on the whole American dream, that pursuit of freedom, and that seductive power, I guess, of rebellion. It's a movie that really challenges the viewer to question their own values, because like Patrick Swayze, that plays Bodie, he's a bad guy, but you cannot help but love him. Like he's an absolutely lovable character. He's made some bad decisions and stuff, but like it's everything he does is in this movie is just so cool, and yeah, I mean and I think that was the whole point of that. Like I said, it shows that seductive power of rebellion. It's you're like questioning your own ways. Like, man, I don't want to break the law, but that would be some pretty cool stuff to do. Like what he's not like robbing banks or anything. I'm not gonna. I don't. I have no desire to go rob a bank or anything like that. But just everything that Bodie does, he just kind of lives by his own rules. It's very cool. And there was a 2000, I think 2015 is when they did the remake of this, but that wasn't. I don't think it was a success. I never watched the remake of Point Break, but I didn't hear a lot of people talk about it, so it must not been that successful. But the original Point Break, though, it remains a timeless piece of action cinema, in my opinion. It's just a testament to Catherine Bigelow's vision, and speaking of Catherine Bigelow again, I mean, like not only she do Near Dark, which was one of my favorite vampire movies, but she was the first ever woman to win Best Director in the Academy Awards when she directed The Hurt Locker. So yeah, Catherine Bigelow, and she was also, I think, married to James Cameron for a while too. Hey, Greg, what's going on, man? Yeah, all is well right now, as much as it can be. Still, having to deal with my mother-in-law's loss of her home this past weekend because of the flooding here in Kentucky. But she, we're helping her out a lot. She's staying with us right now. We're trying to figure out some stuff. We've been talking to FEMA and people, so we're going to try to figure out something out for her as far as helping her out. And then there's other people in our community that are offering help to her as well. So but yeah, I mean, it's everything as good as it can be. I'm glad to see you here tonight, Greg. Like I said, this is just a little short one that we'll be doing because for President's Day special. But glad you stopped by, man. Um, but yeah, like I said, this is a movie. The chemistry in this between Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze is phenomenal. And while this is not my favorite Keanu Reeves movie. But it's my favorite Patrick Swayze movie. I think this has got to be up there as one of my top Keanu Reeves movies as well. Like I think River's Edge will still probably always be my favorite Keanu Reeves movie. Um, but Point Break is just like I said, it continues to inspire other filmmakers to put out that same type of chemistry and atmosphere in their movies to this day, and it's just the overall message is just that you know live life to the fullest. Don't let anything hold you back from doing something that you dream of doing. And the bank robberies and everything aside, that was the whole point of Bodie's character because his biggest dream was to have that ultimate thrill. And um, it goes into that at the end, and that's what ultimately seals his fate is the ultimate thrill that because it just that type of feeling just it leads you to a breaking point in life, and if you're not accomplishing what your goals and your dreams, I mean, um, or if you're not even trying, then what's the point? You know what I mean? Um, that's one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel. I mean, that's a good example, like because it had been a goal of mine for years to start a YouTube channel and just talk about movies and wrestling and everything that I like. So if there's anybody out there watching this and have goals that you know you want to accomplish, don't give up on it. I mean, anything is possible, I believe. So yeah. Greg, you say the Richard Nixon mask is the same as used in the 1990 film Men at Work. Oh, is it? Well, I guess so. I mean, I knew it was very similar, but it's the same one. That's really cool. That's another movie I haven't seen in a while is Men at Work. But I do like that's the one with Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, I think. Correct? Okay. Um, but yeah, I need to watch that sometime soon too because it's been a long time. But it's a great movie. Um, and speaking of those guys, like I didn't realize that they were brothers for the longest time. Which Charlie Sheen's real name, I guess, is Carlos Estevez. So, and I knew like for years that Charlie Sheen and Martin Sheen were related, but I had no idea that Emilio Estevez was a part of that family too, till like maybe a few years ago when I found all that out. But yeah, man, like this has been fun. I just wanted to do a really short one today, like I said, because I had the day off. It's President's Day, and I said, well, I'm gonna do a little short President's Day special for people to check out. Um, but I want to thank everybody that watched this on live. I want to thank Greg for popping into the chat and talking to me for a little bit. Thanks for being here, man. You're always welcome here. Um, I want to thank anybody that's watching this on replay. And if you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe to the channel if you'd like, and please like this video. It would help me out a lot. But I think that's it from me now, guys. So I won't be doing a show this Thursday. But the next show will be on this next Sunday, which will be the 23rd, and that will be my badass cinema video, which is just a few nothing really themed for the next video. It's just a bunch of random movies that are really badass to me. So like Taxi Driver, The Warriors, and a few others. I've already got it put up as an upcoming video on the channel, so you can check that out. But that will be this Sunday, but for tonight, that's it for me, guys. I love you, and have a good night.